अखंडमंडलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनं शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। So today we will have a proper satsang. Last 2-3 days I have been mixing politics and religion and this and that and going about rambling. So today I thought, since we have a proper setup for a satsang, everybody is sitting folded legs, no chairs to hang. Oh, there are some, sorry. That's okay. And so on. So I thought that in the evening sessions we will go into the practicals, and those who are seriously interested in the practice of Kriya or something like that, we can touch upon that in the evening session. So now I want to, is that Anahat Shabda? Can you hear me there at the back? Okay. So now I'm going to take the Bhagavad Gita and go into one of the chapters which described what is known as Dhyana Yoga, the yoga of meditation. Now, what more authentic material can we get than the Gita on this matter? So I'm going to do that. Can somebody hand over the Gita to me? Thank you. Now, before we go into this, I'm sure most of you must have read the Gita or heard the Gita or listened to the Gita and so on. However, I need to make a small introduction about the Gita, even though you may know about it. One is that it comes from the Mahabharata, from one section of the Mahabharata, which is known as the Bhishma Parva. And all the great acharyas, starting from Adi Shankara onwards, maybe before that, but we have no evidence at the moment, have written commentaries on it, which means it's such an important text. Apart from that, the introduction to the Gita itself, which is called the Dhyana Slokas, describe the Gita as the simplification of the profound truths of the Upanishads, put in understandable language for you and me, on the ground. So it's difficult to read something like the Brahma Sutra, which starts with Atato Brahma Jijnasa, this is the study of the Brahman, and so on. Here I am looking for how to keep my family together, how to earn my living. Brahma, to understand the Supreme. It's not easy. There are some who can, maybe. So the Gita in the Dhyana Sloka describes, in the Dhyana Sloka of the Gita, the description is that the profound truths of the Upanishads have been brought in such simple language as a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna by Vedavyas. Let's not get into the historical aspects of it as it appears to us. So, the Dhyana Sloka in beautiful language describes this by saying, Sarvo Upanishato Gao, if all the Upanishads are cows, or suppose if all the Upanishads were considered to be cows, Dugdha Gopala Nandana, and if Krishna is considered to be the one who milks the cows, Partho Vatsa, if Arjuna, Partha, is considered to be the calf, CALF. When the calf hits its head on the udder of the cow, then the milk flows copiously. So Arjuna keeps butting throughout the Gita. You said this, but I can't understand this. Please explain again, and so on. Sudhir Bhokta, what wise men enjoy. Dugdam Gita Amritam Mahat. This is the nectar of the Gita. This is the description given. So it is the Upanishads milked and offered in its essence in simple language. This is the Gita. Now, as I mentioned the other day, Gitam also means a song, a music. They call Bhagavad Gita Song of the Lord. Gitam means a song, music. Why? Because the truth that is being examined in the Bhagavad Gita is not something that can be learned through strict cerebral prose. You know how music is different from prose. If I say, I love you, and if you sing it, there's a difference, right? Otherwise, all the Bollywood music would be shut up. So, poetry and music go closer to that reality, which cannot be put in the kind of purely cerebral prose. That's the importance of it. So you should listen to the music rather than just the words. Go between the lines. This is very important. And Krishna, since Krishna is considered to be the teacher, the Gita is the only place where Krishna becomes a teacher, Jagat Guru. Everywhere else he is doing other things. He is driving Arjuna's chariot. He is playing the flute and makes the gopis forget everything else, and so on in Vrindavan. So playing the flute is important. What is flute? Music. And does music have any language? Forget the lyrics. Music has no language. It's language that helps us but also divides us. You always find linguistic groups trying to stick together. Right? So language, while it's constructive, is also divisive in some way. Music is not. If you listen to music, forget the words. Everybody enjoys it universally. There's no meaning to be read into it, no need of an intellectual discussion. You're enjoying it because you're going beyond words. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita is the Bhagavad Gita, the song of the Lord. That's what we should note. Not get into the nitty-gritty of, what did it mean this? The great Acharya Shankara, who wrote, well, there are many other Acharyas also, please remember, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vallabha and so on. But the great Acharya Shankara, after writing all these commentaries on the Upanishads, Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutras, commentaries, Brahma Sutras, and such philosophical texts like the Viveka Chudamani, Drigdrishya Viveka, so many others. I don't know how he found time in this so many years when he was walking all the time. 30 years is gone. Anyway, said something very interesting. He says all that is true, but no amount of intellectual hair splitting is going to take you there. If Shankara can say that, what can we do? Therefore, he also sang, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Modhamate. Sing the name of Govinda, you fool. Samprapte sannihite kale. Your time is approaching. It approaches for everybody, right? Nobody knows when one is going to die. I'm not saying you should keep on chanting, I'm going to die. No, it's not that. I don't. I'm very happy living. What I mean is it's a fact that death can approach at any time. So he says, don't now sit down. Nahi nahi rakshati dukra na karne. Don't sit down and waste your time with intellectual hair-splitting arguments. Sing the name of Govinda. Which means what? Listen to the music. You're looking at me and thinking I'm talking completely different from what I was yesterday or day before. But this is a satsang. So what I'm going to do is to deal with, because in the evening we might look into Kriya Yoga and meditation and the practical ways of doing it. So I want to look at what the Gita says about meditation. So there is a chapter which is called Dhyana Yoga. I forgot to bring my glasses. Yogis need glasses to read. What's your power? Your reading glasses?
I have 2 plus 2.
That's too much for me. I just started using them a year or two. Seems like a lady's glasses. This is also too powerful for me. Any 1.5?
Can you try this?
Yes,
I'm not
please.
sure. I don't know what I am.
That's a universal problem. We don't know who we are. Oh my God. These are all... Sorry about this. I have many glasses now. I can sell them. Thank you very much. Thank you. Very kind of you. So, there is the chapter 6, which is called Communion Through Meditation, Dhyana Yoga. You must remember that chapter 1 is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. There are 18 chapters in the Gita. Chapter 1 is Arjuna Vishada Yoga. That's where we stand normally, which means the yoga of Arjuna's confusion, the yoga of Arjuna's insecurity, the yoga of Arjuna's uncertainty, the yoga of Arjuna's grief. We all stand there. That's the beginning point. Without that, we wouldn't even be looking for an answer, right? Unless we are insecure, we are confused, we are in trouble, that's when it's in grief and sorrow that man begins to think. Man meaning human being, begins to think about deeper things. The Granth Sahib, the Sikh holy book says, Dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. In sorrow that one begins to chant the name of the Lord and call upon Him. In happiness, who bothers? Who cares? You might light a candle and go on, but there is, oh God, what have you done to me? So, this, we all stand there at the portals of the Bhagavad Gita, as Arjuna did, not knowing what to do. And from there it goes on to Sankhya Yoga, to Karma Yoga, and so on, different chapters. And we come to the 6th chapter called Dhyana Yoga, Yoga of Meditation. Now, if you think that the Yoga of Meditation discusses only how to sit and close your eyes and breathe in and out, you're mistaken. That's why I wanted you to do this. Because you need to know why we are doing it. What is the meaning of this? If without changing our lifestyles, if you could just breathe in and out and reach God, it must be a terrible God. Kriya Yoga is my parampara. So I defend Kriya, but what I'm trying to say is there are other factors involved. And this is the discussion in this chapter. So I start from the first sloka. And here the first sloka is Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. So says Bhagavan, so says Krishna. Should we do the Sanskrit or just do the translation? It's going to take time. I love the Sanskrit, but okay. So the first sloka is Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karotiya sa sannyasi cha yogi chana niragnir na cha kriyaha. Krishna is trying to define to Arjuna what is the correct definition of a sannyasi or a renouncer. Does it depend on the robes or on the hairstyle? No. Not me, this Krishna in the Gita, please. So, he says, it is the man who performs his duties, not gives up his duties, who performs his duties without depending on the fruits, that deserves to be called a sannyasi and a yogi, not one who keeps no fire or avoids work, especially meant for people who are so lazy they don't want to do anything, as I have given up everything. Why? Because I am very spiritual. May not be, everybody may not be so, I am just saying. Krishna says, now what is the meaning of one who does not keep the fire or who renounces all work? It means, in ancient times, all householders are supposed to light every day a fire, the homa, the yajna of fire. It's a ritual of fire when you keep the fire, which means you are a householder. You are with your family. It also means keeping the fire of inquiry burning always, eternally. So if the fire of inquiry stops burning, then how do we move? It's over. No way out. So what Krishna is trying to say here is, don't think that a person who has given up or renounced is one who has stopped all work or has stopped doing what is necessary in daily life and has given up his duties. You must have heard of the great yogi Lahiri Mahashai. Please, I have nothing against sannyasins, sir. It's a great thing, of course. But few people can do it. And the Gita is meant for all. You must have, I don't know if you have heard of a great yogi called Shamacharan Lahiri Mahashai, who used to live in Banaras, but was from Bengal. One of his disciples went to him. He was actually very close to him. Some people think that there is only one lineage from Lahiri Mahashai. That's not true. In fact, Lahiri Mahashai's closest and the most advanced disciple was a person called Panchanan Bhattacharya, who used to live in Devghar, which is now in Jharkhand. So he went to him. One day, he suddenly decided that he would renounce everything and wear the saffron robe. And after that, he went to see Lahiri Mahashai. He had 6 children and a big estate in Devghar. Lahiri Mahashai told him, listen, you say you have taken sannyas. How many children do you have? 6. Who is going to take care of me? Am I going to take care of your kids and your wife? And the good things you were doing with the money that came from the estates, are you sure the guy who takes over is going to use it? He said, but I came for the advanced Kriya technique. Because now I have taken sannyas. He said, yeah, I will give you the advanced Kriya technique. Go to the Ganga and throw away these things, wear white and come back. Very people know this story. Because he was so fond of his guru, he came back, of course, wearing white. He said, okay, now you take the next advanced Kriya from me. So, what The Gita is trying to say in the first sloka of Dhyana Yoga, you will wonder what has got to do with meditation. Your lifestyle plays a big part if you are able to meditate. The whole day, 12 hours a day, our mind is distracted. We are doing this, we are doing that. And then for half an hour in meditation, we expect our mind to remain silent. Is this going to work? Whatever technique you use. Not possible. So your life has to be systematized. You should know what to do, what not to do. Follow the yama niyamas. Not give up everything. You can't actually. Even when you are sleeping, your body is working. You may not work. Digestion is going on, everything is going on, and your subconscious mind is constantly working, which is why you dream. Nothing is stopped. And like I said yesterday, very often laziness is mistaken for spiritual tranquility. You know, Swami Vivekananda, in the 39 years of his existence, or 41, I don't know, he did work which 100 people could not have done in 1,000 years. Difference, of course, is that he was not working for himself, working for others. That's there, of course. So it's not, what they're trying to say is not giving up work that is important, but that giving up the selfishness and the motive to reap benefits only for yourself and not for others. So if you can work, doing good to others, please continue to work. If you need to work to look after your family, please continue to work. Be responsible. And keep the fire burning, which means the fire in the kitchen. Nowadays you don't need firewood, it's only gas. But you need to pay the bill for the gas, right? Who pays the bill? Keep it on. Plus, keep the fire of earning for the Supreme alive. Don't let it go off at any point. Don't say, now I've achieved, I don't have to do anything. Why? Everything is Brahman. Yeah? Really? May be true in the Brahma Sutras, but really? If everything is Brahman, why do we start crying when something terrible happens to us? So, what the Gita is trying to remind you, not to deny that everything is Brahman, it's a different question, but to be on your feet, to live in reality, to be on the ground, down to earth, and then start from there. So, a sannyasin, according to this verse, is one who doesn't stop working but is not worried about the fruits of his actions. That's called nishkama karma. Of course, that doesn't mean you shouldn't have an aim. You should. Without an aim, you can't do any work. But if it comes or it does not come, be cool about it. It may not happen. So what? There are so many other things you can do. Use all your failures as stepping stones. Learn from experience and move forward. If one lives in this world this way, then the mind becomes conducive to meditation. Otherwise, how will you meditate? Oh, I invested this much money on this particular project and it's going to fail. How do I meditate? Failure is constantly in my head. I cannot meditate. Or, I invested so much money, now I've made 10 billion. Can you meditate? No, your mind is too excited. So, not to get too concerned about the fruit, but to do your work properly, truthfully, in the right way. This is karma yoga, and this is also stressed in Dhyana Yoga. So Gita is a practical philosophy. It's not an otherworldly philosophy. Please understand this. Arjuna wants to give up the battle and go back. And Krishna says, take up your bow. What happened to you? I thought you were a good fellow, till now you're behaving like an idiot. So, the second sloka. Yam sannyasam iti prahur yogam tam vidhi pandava nahi Asamnyasya sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. O son of Pandu, what is called sannyasa or renunciation is identical to yoga or discipline to perform selfless action. For whoever has not abandoned their subtle hankerings after the senses can never become a yogi or a practitioner of spiritual communion through yoga. What they are trying to say is, as long as you have not learned the art, not you, me, anybody, have learned the art of living in this world and performing your duties and not getting caught up in the results, and whose senses are always running away at the drop of a hat, how can such a person expect to become a yogi? Is what they are asking. You know, we live in a world where one day we are attracted by something, another day we are attracted by something else, third day you are attracted by the third thing. In this way of living, Krishna is asking, how is one to become a yogi? So streamline your life. No excesses. Moderation is the key. In some other chapter, Krishna says, this yoga is not for him who eats too much, or eats too little, or sleeps too much, or sleeps too little. Moderation is the key. Arurakshor munir yogam karma karanam uchyate yogarudhasya tasyaiva shamak karanam uchyate. For one who desires to go on the path leading to the heights of spiritual attainment or communion called yoga, detached work is the means. But for one who has already gone beyond a certain point, quietness is the way. Which means don't suddenly give up everything before you're ready for it. You know, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to talk about what he used to call the monkey sannyasa. I wrote my exams and I thought I'm going to fail miserably. So what do? I run away from home and go to Banaras. I'm going to take sannyas. Why? Because my exam results are going to come. I might fail. And then what happens? I go there and then after 2 weeks I send a telegram back home. What? Can you send me some money now? You know, this is not sannyas. Because we are still at the static point. We need to work towards stability and tranquility of mind. Once when Swami Vivekananda was traveling in India, before he was well known, he had to go to Chicago and address the Parliament of Religions before the West accepted him as a great yogi, and then we all said, oh, he's a great yogi. But there was a time when he was unknown, walking around with torn clothes, with nobody to look after him, changing his name also at many places. Sometimes he was Sachidananda, sometimes he was Vivekananda. So in one of these journeys, when he reached Maharashtra, a young man came to him and said, Swamiji, I want to give up everything and become a great sannyasin like the Buddha. So Swamiji said, okay, very good idea, perfect. But then, what is your educational qualifications? Have you studied anything? He said, no, I'm a school dropout. Okay. And how much wealth do you have in your family? He said, I have nothing. Okay. Do you have a job? No, I have. Swamiji said, what are you going to give up? You don't have anything. He said, giving up what? He said, the Buddha gave up his kingdom. You have nothing, what will you give up? So he said, so what do? Swamiji gave him a piece of advice. He said, go do some work. It doesn't matter if you steal. make some money and come back to me and say, Swamiji, I have this much money, I'm going to give it up. This is, before you get mature, people suddenly start thinking of these things. And then it's an utter failure because halfway through you don't know what to do, so you come back. So, what Krishna is trying to say is anyone who is trying to reach the highest, the best means as of now, where you stand, is to do your work, but without being affected by the results of the work, without being depressed by failure or exalted by success. If you can do that and carry on until you reach a state when you have begun to taste the music a little bit, and you've begun to taste the music, then you're not too interested in other things. Then you don't have to, then you can stay quiet. You can say, no, I don't want to do any work. Okay. But not before that. Premature giving up of activity is not the right way to move forward because it usually ends up in failure. We know that. I've seen many people. I know many young people who give up, think that they have reached already. Sometimes I doubt if it's cannabis that does the trick, and they say, oh, we are very spiritual, we are not doing any work. And the parents come to me, what happened to this boy? I said, I'm not responsible. So, well, I did run away from home at the age of 19. But then when my results came, I got good marks, not because of the exams. And once I went, I didn't come back. I came back because Babaji said, get out, get lost. Not before that. So, don't imitate. Go at your own pace, in your own way, at your own speed. Don't imitate somebody else. People go to, I've heard that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa went and prayed before the Holy Mother, before Kali, Mother Kali. Take everything away from me. Just grant me your vision. I warn people, if you're very serious, don't do this. Because suppose she really becomes serious and starts pulling the rug under your feet, then what happens? Oh, I have to go back. I don't want Kali. Why? My house is gone. So maturity is important. So you have to start where you stand and then proceed. There's a story of a very old lady who used to go to a temple every day. It was a Devi temple. And every day she used to pray, especially so that her daughter-in-law can hear what she's saying. Because the daughter-in-law accompanied the mother-in-law. Oh, mother, why are you keeping me here? Take me away. I'm not interested in all this. Forgetting that the entire storeroom keys were always with her here. Anyway, oh, please take me away. So there was a priest who used to hear this every day and he got fed up. He knew the hypocrisy of the state. So one day he went and stood behind the deity, the devta. Since he had many arms, he put 2 arms and you can't make out how many. So he gave, please take me away. Why are you keeping me here? He said, Va, in Tamil, come. You may know what happened, the reaction. She screamed and ran for her life. She said, who will look after my grandchildren? It's called premature renunciation. Renunciation is good. So, while you are in this situation, whichever situation you are, try to remain here and work till you find that your mind becomes mature and tranquil. After that, it's okay. You can do what you want. This is what Krishna is trying to say, that for the beginner, one who is on this path, who is interested in the best way is to remain and work and do detached work. And the one who has crossed that boundary, whose senses are perfectly under his control, who is a sthita prajna, who has attained the capacity to remain tranquil in pain or pleasure, heat or cold, such a person, the solution is now quietness. Don't do anything. not before that. Thank you. यदा हि इंद्रियार्थेषु न कर्मसि अनुसज्जते सर्व संकल्प संन्यासी योगारूढ़स्य तदुच्यते. Who is the greatest of yogis according to Krishna? When one ceases to be attached to the sense organs, sense objects, to one's actions, that kind of person who has abandoned all subtle hankerings and self-centered objectives. Objectives are okay. Abandoning self-centered objectives. That person is supposed to have become yogarudha, ascended the heights of spiritual communion. Till then, we have to labor, we have to work hard on that. I'm not saying we should do bonded labor, but so until the time when one has ceased to be attached to the sense objects and to self-serving actions. Actions are okay, but at least 10% to start with of your actions should be for somebody else. Let's start that way, in a small way. And gradually, as you improve your spiritual stature, you will be working more for others than for yourself. And a time will come when your mind has become so tranquil that you can't do anything. Then relax. Not before that. Don't jump into it. Don't mistake laziness for a spiritual tranquility. Don't mistake tamoguna with sattvaguna. Little bit of rajas is good. Keeps you up, makes you move. Uddharet atmanatmanam na atmanam avasadayat atmeva hi atmano bandhur atmeva ripuratmana. This is a very interesting sloka from the Gita. It says, one should uplift one's lower self with one's higher self. Don't degrade or depress yourself. For the self can be your friend and the self can be your enemy. You can substitute the word self with mind. One should uplift one's lower mind with the higher mind. One should not condemn oneself. Because if you begin to condemn you, I'm a bad fellow, I'm this, I'm that, then remember, but in my true essence, I'm a part of the Supreme. Balance it. Because the spiritual journey is not a journey to depression. It's a journey to exaltation. So whenever you feel, oh, I'm useless, I'm a terrible fellow, I'm doing this, substitute it with, well, but I am in my true essence a spark of the divine, which is full of bliss and happiness. I may not be the full divine yet, but there is a spark undeniably. Balance. And don't condemn yourself, I'm a terrible. You're not a terrible person. You're a person with so much potential to become something else. If I keep saying I'm terrible, I might turn out to be terrible after some time. Say, no, I'm glorious, I'm better, I'm greater. There's a spiritual element in me which is that part of that which pervades the entire universe. Keep remembering this. And therefore, what is meant by the lower self is the self that thinks only about itself. And the higher self is the self that thinks that this whole universe is part of us. So use the higher self to pull yourself out from the lower self. Don't degrade yourself by constantly repeating, I'm useless. Put some energy into it. Be happy. Stand up and say, I'm part of that immortal supreme reality. I'm not experienced it, but I know I would reach there some point. And therefore, the Gita says, the mind can be your friend and the mind can also be your enemy. It's the same mind. Not as if there are two minds. This thing about lower mind and higher mind is a division for convenience or for description. There's only one mind actually. So, try to cultivate your mind in friendliness and not as an enemy. You would have seen this. Suppose I feel that my mind is tending towards something which is negative. Let's say. Will it help if I keep saying I'm negative? Or do I use the other part of my mind and say, no, there are some parts in me which are good. So let me improve them. If I improve that part, then the other part takes care of itself. It's gone after some time. And when the better part of mind takes over, then you become a better person. And day by day, slowly go on until you touch that which is beyond the mind. For that the mind has to calm down, right? The mind cannot calm down in its depressed state, in its lower state. It can calm down only when it reaches its fullness. When it reaches its fullness, then that which is beyond the mind reveals itself. That which is the first impulse that makes the mind even think. And that's in everybody. It's not as if I have it and you don't, and you have it and I don't. One common property everybody can claim is the divine. You may not have a physical house or a property, but this you have. So, cultivate your mind as a friend. Don't make it your enemy. Don't allow it to take you down. Use your mind to lift yourself up. What a wonderful message. Maybe 1,000 years ago. Bandhur atma atmanastasya yana atmaiva atmana jitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartet atmaiva shatruvat. To him who has subdued the lower self with the higher self, then the self becomes a friend. But to him who has lost his higher self, by allowing the lower self to dominate, then the self becomes an enemy and is always hostile to you. That's very simple. There's no need to explain. If you have looked carefully with what we said before, it's very simple. It says if your higher self is made your friend, then it keeps your lower self at bay. It doesn't let you go down. It raises you up. Jitatmanah prashantasya paramatma samahita shitoshna sukha dukkheshu tadha mana apamanayo. What are the signs of one who has conquered his mind? What are the signs? The sign is, first sign, is that the self remains steady and unperturbed in the experience of heat and cold, pleasure and pain, honor and dishonor. You know how we live our lives? Somebody today praises me and says, oh, he's a great man and so on. And I'm okay. The whole day I'm floating in cloud 9. Suppose somebody says this fellow is a fool. I didn't use the other word. Suppose this fellow is a fool. What happens to me? I mean, it doesn't happen to me. What happens? You're depressed. Oh, I thought I was a good person. He called me a fool. No, I always ask people, suppose somebody calls you a fool and you don't know the English language. What happens? The meaning of the word that is striking me, right? Not the sound. What if I knew only Hindi and thought when you say fool, you're saying fool? I'm a flower, then I'm happy. So, the sign of a person who has become a sthita prajna, has gone beyond the opposites, whose mind is functioning at a non-negative level, is a person who remains calm and tranquil in the midst of all circumstances. Heat and cold, pain and pleasure. Keep it here. Thank you. Pain and pleasure, and the other very important thing, what is that? Honor and dishonor. If you can take both equally. Otherwise what happens? If for 100 days, 100 people, every morning when I wake up, keep telling me you're God, what happens? On the 101st day I might really believe I'm God. If somebody says you're the devil, on the 101st day I might really begin to think I might be the devil, really. So what they're trying to say is forget public opinion. And this you can learn a lot from politicians, they don't care. They do their job. I sometimes wonder if they are sthita prajna. You do your thing, don't bother. See, if somebody dishonors you, they're not taking anything away from you. Somebody honoring you, watch out a bit, they might be flattering you. In fact, I think criticism is better than flattery. Because when somebody flatters, you know that there's some pull out there, something is there, coming up soon. You're a great man, you're a wonderful, especially with rich people. There are people, oh, you're a great man. After half an hour, so about 200 pounds donation for a cause. The flattery is always meant to please you. So don't get caught up in flattery and don't get worried about criticism. These are two sides of the same coin. If you live this way, then you're not swayed by opposites. You're in a tranquil plane. Why all this preparation in a chapter called Yoga of Meditation? Because you need to change your life before you can meditate. You can't say, I will live as I want and I will meditate. It's not possible to touch the spirit. Yeah, it's possible to touch the other spirit which comes in a bottle. You know why people take that spirit? Because for a short period, the central nervous system is paralyzed. Therefore, you are removed from some limitations. You feel very expansive. But you don't forget that the liver is there to be taken care of. Somebody asked, is life worth living? And the answer was, it depends on the liver. So, teaching here, Krishna's teaching here, is a yogi who has reached the highest of states, is one whose mind is not affected by the opposites, who is tranquil, who does his job, does his meditation, is not affected by all this. Jnana vijnana triptatma kutasto vijitendriya yukta iti uchyate yogi samaloshta smakanchana. A yogi whose spirit has attained that contentment through knowledge and experience is unperturbed, but subdued his senses. For such a person, a lump of earth and a bar of gold are alike. Not that he thinks they are the same, but for him, It doesn't matter. That's what it means. Don't mistake this to think that a yogi looks at mud and thinks it is gold, or looks at gold and thinks it's not that. It's a symbolic, metaphoric expression to show that you can neither tempt him through wealth nor depress him with mud. Such a yogi is said to have attained spiritual communion and steadfastness. Nowhere here is it mentioned that the greatest of yogis is one who sees spectacular visions. Not mentioned here. Maybe. But then, as part of your meditation, as you go deeper and deeper in your mind, you might sometimes see visions. That's okay. But that's not the criteria. No yogi can see as many visions as somebody who takes LSD. Are they saints? Are they yogis? Characteristics are important. One of them, the main, that the mind is calm and quiet. It's not torn between opposites. It's become tranquil. Such a mind is a takeoff point from which one can go to the higher spheres. As a corollary to that, Suhrana Mitra Arodasani Madhyastha Devasya Dvandasu Sadhusva Apicha Papeshu Samabuddhir Vishishyate. Please note this, says Krishna. Especially noteworthy in excellence is one who is even-minded in his outlook on friend and foe, on comrade and stranger, on the neutral or on an ally, or on good and even the evil. Such a good yogi, great yogi, has no friends or no foes. All, either you can say all are his friends and he has no foes. That's a better way to put it. And not only that, he loves not only the good but also the evil. There are no evil actually. If you look into your mind, nobody worse than us. Kabir Das, the great weaver saint, said, "Bura jo dekhne main chala, bura na miliya koi, dil khoja apna mujhsa bura na koi." I was looking for evil in others. I couldn't find much, so I opened my mind. My God, Pandora's box, here it is. So why do I blame somebody else? Don't blame anybody. We suffer or enjoy according to our actions. If you want to get out of it, get out of it. Don't bother. So there is no evil person for the great yogi, because Valmiki was a dacoit, right? What did he become later? A rishi? So there is a potential of the hidden spark of divinity in all. I think this is why Jesus Christ gave so much attention to the poor, to the needy, to what people called evil, so that who will raise them up? If a saint cannot raise them up, who can raise them up? Because a yogi doesn't see all that. He sees only the divine spark in the heart of a person. The same spark that is in me is in you. So to continue to see that, and very soon what you called an evil person becomes a good person. In fact, I think evil is a starting point towards the good. There is no evil person. I am the evil person. If I see evil in others, I am evil. See, good. Well, it's too much to say if somebody slaps you on one cheek, turn to him the other also. It's not easy to practice, I agree, in this practical world. But keep this in mind, that if somebody slaps you on your cheek, to give him 3 more slaps is not a solution. It'll only escalate the matters. And now comes practice. After saying all this, laying the background and saying how a person should be living before he practices dhyana. First, the next sloka. First sloka is, therefore, having said this, yogi yunjita shatatam atmanam rahasistita ekakiyata chittatma nirashira parigraha. Let the yogi, who having understood what has been said, constantly practice spiritual communion, residing in a solitary spot, desireless, possessionless, and disciplined in body and mind. Now, residing in a solitary place does not necessarily mean running away to the Himalayas. Because wherever you run away, you carry your mind with you, right? You can't leave your mind and run anywhere. Still carry your mind. Of course, there are advantages in some places where you may get some help, that I can understand. Beyond that, solitary simply means that you have a place where you can sit quietly, undisturbed, alone for a length of time. That's enough. Put up a board saying, even if the house burns down, don't call me. Sit in the room. So solitude is essential, but solitude cannot be practiced all your life. But short periods of solitude are very important for spiritual growth. You see this little worm, that caterpillar that crawls in the mud. After crawling enough and eating enough, says, now let me go into solitude. So what does it do? It builds a cocoon around it and sits inside. Absolute darkness. Perhaps it meditates, I don't know, I haven't seen its brain. But it's inside the cocoon. And then it matures. That short period of solitude is essential. Then it matures. And what happens? That caterpillar which was crawling in the mud has now beautiful colored wings and is flying in the sky, the butterfly. But once it is mature and has become a butterfly, it breaks the cocoon and comes out. It doesn't sit there. So, while solitude is essential in your spiritual practice, it's not that you should be always in solitude. Short periods of solitude are very essential, where you can sit and marshal your thoughts and keep quiet and relax and meditate. You can also do it in your own house if you have a room where you can sit. In fact, if you are practicing serious spiritual exercises which involve pranayama and so on, definitely use a separate room. Don't sit where your wife and children are. They might think something has gone wrong with you. One of my friends in Chennai wanted to pray. He had spondylitis. So there is one asana which is very good for spondylitis. I'm not going on a yoga therapy session, I'm just... and it's called Simhasan. In Simhasan, you sit like a lion, about to attack, about to spring. And then you open your mouth wide and roll your eyes just like a lion. And then you I'm not going to show it now, it looks very strange. And you put your tongue out like that, as long as you can stretch it. It is stretching of the tongue that affects the back, the neck. You can feel it here if you do it. So, I said practice it for a month or two, do Simhasan. So this guy said, okay. Then he went. Next day, early morning, I got a phone call from his wife. She said, something has happened to my husband. So what's happened? I don't know, you told him, I don't know what you did to him. So what's happened? He's on the terrace, his tongue is out, his eyes have rolled, and he's about to spray. I don't know if he's going to jump out of the terrace. So I said, please warn your wife before you practice. Therefore, it's always good to have a solitary room. Who knows what's going to happen when you practice? You might suddenly stand on your head. So, a yogi who has understood how to lead his life, practicalities of daily life, is not too affected by what happens externally, but who continues to lead his life, will benefit a great deal if he can find moments of solitude where you can sit quietly and, what does he say? Desireless, possessionless and disciplined in body and mind. When you say desireless and possessionless, it doesn't mean that you have to sell away everything that you have. When you sit, when you take off your shoes, in your mind, say, I'm leaving my ego here. You can easily make out, in fact, if you're at Sherlock Holmes, you'll see that Sherlock Holmes tells Dr. Watson, I mean it's a story, it's fiction, but still, tells Dr. Watson, how do you find out a guy is rich or poor? Look at his shoes, he said. Because you can change your clothes easily, but your shoes are too expensive. So if you wear new good shoes, it means the guy has money. Shoes represent many things, and hairstyles, of course. So you can't take off your hair, but at least you can leave your shoes outside, leave your egos there with the shoes. So that's what is meant. Not that you sell everything away and sit and meditate. You can't do that. And if you parked your car, hide the keys somewhere. Don't keep thinking about the car. Here it's not so dangerous. In India, when you go back, you won't find the car out there. So what we mean is take your mind off from all these things. When you are in solitude, relax and fix your attention with it. Don't think of all that. When you come back, okay, get them back. It doesn't matter. But after days of meditation, as the mind becomes mature, you will find that even when you come out, you can handle it far calmly. So practice is essential. Solitude is essential. Now, what kind of place, how to sit for meditation, that has also been explained in a practical way. Sucho deshe pratishtapya stiram asanam atmana na atuchittam na adichinacham chail ajina kushottaram tatraikagram manakritva yati indriyakriya upavishyasane yunjat yogam atma vishuddhaya. I'm saying word by word so that it's clear. In a clean spot, which is neither too high nor too low. See, coming down from abstract things to the practical. This is the thing about the Gita. One day it talks about emotions and mind, and suddenly talking about how to sit. Is the place high or low or clean? So go to a clean place. Why clean place? Because if you don't go to a clean place, while you are meditating, you might get a scorpion biting you. So go to a clean place, which is neither too high nor too low. If it's too high, you might fall down. If it's too low, there are other dangers. No high, too low. Have a seat. Now you don't have to take this very seriously. Make a asana or seat with kusha grass or skin and cloth. You can use a rug, it's okay. Those days they didn't have these woolen rugs, so that's all right. And don't have to search for a tiger skin to meditate. It's a crime now. So just have, what it's trying to say is that when you use a rug or your asana for meditation, don't give it to anybody else. It's only for yourself. Because if you give to somebody else, believe me, this works. You give, one day you're meditating on a thing like that, and then after 3 days, your friend or your roommate says, I also want to meditate, can you give it to me? So you give it. and then she meditates or he meditates for 10 days and then he gives back to you. When you sit down to meditate, suddenly you're thinking of pop music. You don't know where it came from. It's from the other person. So, no, if you want to think of pop music, it's all right. I'm just giving you an example. So keep your asana to yourself. That's what it means. Have something on which you can sit regularly in a comfortable place which is clean, which is protected from wind and water and rain and thunder and from wild animals and insects. Firmly seated on it, the yogi should practice spiritual meditation with a mind calm and tranquil and watching the imaginative faculty and the senses until they settle down. So what will happen? You have taken off your shoes, you have stopped thinking about anything else, about the outside world, you found a nice place to sit, you're sitting there and you're meditating. Now what happens? The imagination starts working. You can sit in one place and imagine so many things. So, keep looking at the imagination, all the images that come, keeping in mind that this is not what I am looking for. I want to keep quiet and calm. And the mind has to be tranquil. Don't try to throw the imaginative faculty out because it will rebound with double force. Be a witness to it. Watch it. Don't get involved. If you do that for some time, then slowly the imagination will decide that there is no point in troubling this guy, get away. He's not going to move. So sit quietly until all your image-making ideas are at rest. Now please remember, if you have followed the life which has already been discussed, 50% of your image-making things have been removed. What is the image that you usually get of what you enjoyed? What are the images that you usually get of what you suffered from? If you can practice in your life not to give too much attention to that, when you sit down, they don't trouble you so much. And also, watch. When a small child is standing in a room with a stone in his hand, he says, he's going to throw it on the TV screen. What will happen if the TV screen breaks? My life is gone, finished. I'm dead. No, I'm not talking about myself. Now, if you don't want him to throw it on the TV screen, it is really unwise to tell the child, stop it, throw it. So what do? You make him aware that you're watching. He'll look at you, then he'll look at the stone. Keep looking, don't say a word. Then he'll again look at you. Then 9 times out of 10, he'll slowly put it there and go away somewhere else. All children are not like that, but all minds are like that. If you keep watching, and one day the mind will settle down. It will say, enough is enough now. And who is watching the mind? The mind. Who else? Is there anybody else that we know of except the mind? So, when this happens and the mind becomes quiet and tranquil, then perhaps there is a chance that you might encounter something which is not the mind, because of which the mind exists. Let's put it that way. Consciousness. And then one more practical instruction. Not one more, some more. What is that? Holding the body, head and neck erect. What will happen if you sit to meditate and keep slouching after some time? So keep your neck and head erect, straight, Which doesn't mean that when you said to meditate, you must sit like it means relax and be straight, steady. I've seen some people who are meditating, you think they're going to hit you. Relax. Relax. Keep everything straight, clear. Okay? Don't slouch. That's what they're trying to say. Because many spiritual things happen in the spine, in the area of the spine and the head. So therefore, if you keep the spine steady and not bend forward or backward, then whatever happens clearly and in a good way. No blockages. So keep your mind steady, keep your head steady, keep your neck steady, motionless, firm. And here is one technique of meditation discussed. Gazing at the tip of the nose. Now there are many ways of doing it. You can either gaze at the tip of your nose, or you can gaze in the middle of your eyebrows. In some other places that is also described. Or you can fix your attention in your heart center. And different ways of doing it. Here, since everything can't be discussed at once, just fix your attention on. Now please, when you say fix your attention on the tip of the nose, it's not a physical exercise, okay? It's not that you become cross-eyed. Close your eyes and fix your mind out there. Some people meditate in the middle of the forehead, they do like that, and then the eyes. It's the mind. Fix your attention here. You gaze. So, and then they say that it's paining here. Meditation is a relaxation, not straining. So, holding the body, head and neck erect, samam kaya shirogrivam dharayan nachalam stira, gazing at the tip of the nose, not allowing your mind to go round and round at other objects. Fearless, serene, restrained in mind. You should sit in spiritual communion with me, looking upon me as the highest and most precious end. Now when Krishna says looking upon me as the highest end, he's not talking about Krishna per se, but the Supreme Reality, the Supreme Being. Consider that there is nothing else for me to attain except the spiritual reality. You say Krishna or Shiva or any, it doesn't matter really. It's the aim is to reach the highest, so fix your attention on that. Don't allow your mind to wander around. Fix your attention in one place. Now this is a practical yogic teaching. If you fix your attention on one place, then automatically the mind tends to come there and let go of other things. Because just as the eye can see only one thing at a time, the mind can also think of only one thing at a time. You might think the eye can see many things at a time. Actually it can't. If I'm looking at you, then everything is there hazy, but you are the only clear thing I see. If I'm looking at her, then I'm looking at her. Of course, there is a lens in the eye through which all other images fall, but they're blurred. But I'm only seeing her. So you can only see one thing at a time actually. Then I look at Venki and I'm seeing only him. So, in the same way, hello New York. So, therefore, in the same way, if you fix your attention on one object or one position, then the mind tends to stay there and not wander around, which is the importance of finding a place to meditate upon, in yourself, not outside. And then think that the only goal to be attained is the Supreme Being. Okay. So now, Krishna says, of course you will attain success in this yoga by constant practice. However, this yoga is not for him who eats too much or eats too little. It is also not for him who sleeps too much or who keeps awake all the time. So this is simply a metaphorical presentation of moderation in everything. Moderation in activity, moderation in meditation, moderation in sleeping, moderation in eating. I think among these the most difficult two is moderation in eating and moderation in sleeping. We are very attached to these two things. And I think if you have moderation in eating, you can also moderate sleep. You just think of having a full, great meal. You don't feel like sleeping. So give it a break. See, before my master instructing me on how to eat food and not eat too much or too little, he said, when you sit to eat, get up before you feel you're full. Normally what we like to, so, and then if you do that every day, after a while, you'll become like Ganesha. So, not words for human beings, okay? So, moderation in eating, moderation in sleeping. So, which means that there should be moderation in everything. It's not written here, but also in speaking. There should be moderation in speaking and moderation in listening. If somebody is talking nonsense, don't go away, listen for some time. And then go. There should be moderation in every activity. You should walk, of course, for the body, physical exercise, but don't keep walking for miles. There should be a moderation in everything. So Krishna says here, success in yoga will be definitely attained by the yogi who moderates all his activities in life. Neither eats too much or eats too little or sleeps too much or sleeps too little. Yuktahara viharasya yukta chetastu karmasa yukta swapna avabodhasya yoga bhavanti dukkha. For one who is temperate in food, also temperate in viharasya, recreation. Krishna is saying you can watch TV, but don't watch TV all the time. There was no TV then. I'm not sure if there was no TV then, because seems to have been something. Because when the Gita starts, the king who is blind, who sits in his palace, cannot see the battle. So he asks his assistant, his secretary Sanjay, I think he's his IT assistant, he asks him, who is also sitting in the palace, Sanjaya, tell me what's happening out there in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. What's happening? Interesting, the old man says, what's happening to my people and what's happening to the Pandavas. And he asks Sanjaya, what's happening there? Can you tell me? And apparently there is some device, because Sanjay sits down and looks at the screen and says, this is happening, this is happening. So there might have been TV. I don't know. Something was there. Unless Sanjay saw it in his intuition, I don't know. But something was there. Dharma kshetre, Kurukshetra, kshetre, samveda yuyutsava, mamakam pandavascheva kim kurvate Sanjaya. What are they doing, Sanjaya? Tell me. So he explains. Here he says, don't watch TV too much. No, he doesn't use the word TV. I am saying this. Or there's no need to not watch, because you might not know the weather tomorrow. But now you don't need TV. Google. Don't get too caught up in it. Little bit entertainment is good for us, but not too much. So, the yogi who is temperate in food and recreation, who is detached and self-restrained even while working, who has regulated his sleep and wakefulness, such a yogi, through constant practice of meditation, brings about the cessation of samsara, of the cycle of birth and death, coming and going, coming and going. This is interesting. In a place called Orcha on the banks of the river Betwa, we were having a satsang. So I said, so this is how one should get rid of this cycle of birth and death, and so then you don't have to come back. And the lady who was 85 years old said, but I want to come back. I enjoy the dal roti and the sabji and traveling. Why shouldn't I come back? I want to come back. So what is this moksha? Why is it preventing me from? So I said, no point. You come back to me when you're ready for it. So, and therefore when such a mind, which has become tranquil, which sits in solitude and meditates within, such a mind is able to remain established when every other activity of the mind has ceased in the Atman alone, in the true self. And then is free from longing for all objects of desire. Such a person is said to have attained the Supreme. Even if you lecture on the Brahman, you have not attained the Supreme until the Gita says your mind has completely settled down and is not caught up by the objects of the senses or the attractions. And its deep calmness, it's in touch with the inner self called Atma. It has nothing to do with scholarship or. In fact, too much of knowledge may be a hindrance to understanding this. Could act as a hindrance. That's why the Upanishad says both vidya and avidya have to be abandoned. Not only avidya, vidya also. Because then, usually when we know too much and when we learn too much and have so much knowledge, even of scriptures, the ego also builds up and becomes huge, you cannot control. And it's the ego that's the root of all our problems. If that is not there, we've already reached there. Okay, do that later. So. Yatha deepo nivathasto na engate sopama smrita yogino yatha chittasya yunjato yogamatmana. A beautiful comparison, beautiful figure, metaphor of a yogi's mind. A yogi's mind, says Krishna, is like the flame of a lamp sheltered from the wind and does not flicker. This is the comparison used to describe a yogi's mind that is united with the inner self. It's like a flame without wind, unflickering flame. That state in which the mind, the thoughts and the mind stuff and all its movements come to rest through the practice of yoga. One experienced the joy of the spirit, which once experienced, one has no desire for any other joy. So when somebody says, I am giving up everything, actually he is not giving up anything. He is giving up trinkets, mere trinkets for the treasure which he is attaining. In the joy of the inner self, anyone who has even tasted it, say the rishis, you find that there is no comparison of such joy in anything in this world. Therefore, we are not interested. And once it is understood and experienced, that joy is seen everywhere. In the smile of a child, in the cry of the suffering, it's all there. But first it has to be found within, and then it can be seen outside also. And in that, the yogi, sukham atyantikam tadyat buddhigrahyam atindriyam vetti yatra na jaivayam sthitas chalati tattvada. In that, the yogi experienced that endless bliss which the senses cannot understand or grasp, which can only be felt by the mind that is pure and restful. Having attained that, one does not waver from the truth. One stays there. Now I'm going to skip a few because they're kind of repetitions. The man of spiritual insight established in same-sightedness. Same-sightedness meaning the yogi sees the same inner self in all. And therefore, to the yogi, everybody is God. Because when you say God, the concept of God in Vedanta is the spark of the divine which is in every heart. We're not talking about the physical heart, center of consciousness. And therefore, such a yogi sees all living beings as walking, talking, moving temples of the divine. Therefore, that person cannot cause harm to anybody. Will you destroy a temple where there is God inside? And it's everywhere. So therefore, the man of spiritual insight, enlightened in the same sightedness and established, sees the self residing in all beings. He who sees me in all beings, and all beings in me, to him I am never lost. Neither he loses me nor I lose him, says Krishna. And then he says, Arjuna, in my view, that yogi is the best. Who? Sarvatra samam pashyati, one who sees all as one, who sees that all human beings, all living beings are part of the same divinity. And having perceived this, feels the joys and sufferings of all as his own. Tall order. One who sees the self, divine self in all, as his own self, therefore shares in the joys and sufferings of others. Therefore, when somebody is suffering, he tries quickly to help them to get rid of it, because it is also his own suffering. And when someone is joyous, he adds joy to it because it's also his own joy. Then Arjuna has a problem. Again, Arjuna says, O Krishna, call him Madhusudana, slayer of Madhu. O Krishna, owing to the fickleness of my mind, I don't know how to become firm in spiritual communion. My mind is so turbulent, and you're saying, keep it like a flame without wind. But my mind is turbulent. I can perhaps control the wind, but I can't control it. So what do you say for that? Says, you said all this, you gave me a big lecture. But my mind is fickle. You said it should be like a flame without the wind. I can control probably the wind, but I cannot control my mind. It's so powerful. It's a question like any one of us can ask. So what do I do about this now? I've heard what you said. Now says, now Arjuna is feeling depressed, worried. His lower mind is taking over. He's worried. So Krishna wants to pep him up. So what does he call him? Mahabaho, O mighty armed one. Throughout the Gita you will find Krishna addressing Arjuna different titles depending on his state of mind. Now he's down, he says, "Oh mighty armed one," so he can stand up. Huh? Great psychologist. So he says, Krishna says, "Oh Mahabaho, O mighty armed one." Undoubtedly the mind is fickle, I understand, and difficult to be checked, right? Yet, O son of Kunti, it can be brought under control by dispassion and spiritual practice. It requires practice. It requires dispassion to be practiced, and it requires practical meditation to be practiced, both. And one keeps at it, one day it will definitely come under control. I accept that it is fickle. See, it's like this. Everybody, most people, are flowing with the stream in one direction. One person stands up in the middle and says, "I want to swim against the current." It's not easy. But then what happens? Then through constant practice you learn to face it. So practice is important. And the development of the qualities of the mind which are discussed are also important. When both of them go side by side, then one is able to attain the tranquility of mind. What Krishna is saying is, don't be in a hurry, I understand that the mind is fickle. Then comes a question. Arjuna says again, all that is fine, Krishna. But what happens, what is the fate of a man who has firm faith but is not steadfast in his practices because of distractions and therefore fails to reach spiritual perfection? So he has firm faith, he knows there is something, there is a divine, my mind is a spark of the divine, he knows all that, he understands all that verbally, but his mind is so distracted that he cannot sit down and calm his mind and make it tranquil. Like many of us, not possible. What happens to such a person? What is his fate? He says, "O mighty armed Lord," now it's Arjuna's turn to say, call Krishna mighty armed. "O mighty armed Lord, bewildered in the path of the spiritual, with no support, does he lose this world and also the next? Does he perish like a rain cloud rent asunder?" It means it's like what is called Trishanku Sorga. You're neither here nor there. See, my mind I can't control, is not becoming calm, so I can't reach the spiritual. I know that there is a spiritual goal. On the other hand, I've spent 60 years meditating, so I've lost all my wealth, so I don't have anything here. So I'm neither here nor I'm there. So what happens to me? What's my fate? I'm lost. I'm neither there nor here. What do you suggest for that? Sri Bhagavan Vacha. Krishna says, "O son of Pritha, he does not meet with the downfall either in this world or in the hereafter. Know this from me certainly, that a man who has already started walking on the path of truth never loses his foothold. He keeps going forward. How? Such a person is called a yoga bhrashta, one who has fallen from yoga. He tried his best, but he fell. Okay? And he is neither here nor there. Don't think that. Because Krishna says, the bank balance that was developed during his effort stays. He doesn't have to start from square one. He has to start from 3 or 2 or 4, wherever he left. So how do we do that? So he says, in such cases, such people who are known as yoga bhrashtas, one who have advanced on the path but haven't gone far and fallen back, he says, don't think they are hopeless cases. What happens in such cases is that they are born under such circumstances in their next birth. Only if you believe in rebirth, okay? Next birth. Either in a family of the wise and the great yogis or rishis, so that from childhood they are diverted towards the path and they finish what is left unfinished. Or they are born in wealthy families and enjoy the wealth until they discover that money cannot buy happiness and go back to the spiritual. Either case there is a reward. So don't think they are lost. This is why otherwise it's unfair. Some human beings, even when they are in childhood, move towards the spiritual. Some don't even when they are 80 years old. You can two explanations. One is chance, which I don't take, or that they have already done a great deal of sadhana in their past lives and they've come back to just complete it. All child prodigies belong to that category in the spiritual field also. That they have done sadhana and somewhere along the line they have not been able to attain due to various distractions and problems. They call yoga bhrashtas. So what happened? And they are born in such circumstances that their spiritual growth from childhood moves towards that direction. Because in their minds they know that that's the only thing that I want. So Krishna says, don't worry Arjuna, I'll make sure that you come back and get back what you are looking for. This whole thing is about that. And then the last one is, this is very interesting. A yogi who is practicing meditation, his mind intent on attaining the spiritual goal is superior to a man of tapasya or austerity. He is also superior to a scholar. He is superior even to one who keeps performing rituals. Therefore, Arjuna, please become a yogi. Saying a yogi who practices meditation daily to attain that which is the highest is superior to the scholar, superior to the everything else. Therefore, you be a yogi, don't be anything else. Don't think that because, in the Mundaka Upanishad, there's a beautiful description of some who think that they have so much scholarly knowledge that they can lead others to the goal of spiritual fulfillment. Such people in the Mundaka are called Andheine Vanyamanaya Tandaha, the blind leading the blind. I'm not saying this. It's a Shruti. And in fact, you have in the history of spiritual, the chapters of spiritual evolution, you will find some simple people who had no education whatsoever, who could barely sign their names, attain the spiritual. Take the case of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Everybody knows. He could hardly write his name, sign his name. He didn't have any knowledge of the scriptures, but all wise men finally came to sit at his feet and understand what he was saying, because it was through personal experience, not through scholarly understanding. Sometimes it's difficult to put this thing into the mind of a scholar. It's easier to put it in the mind of a child. Because there are no fancy trimmings, there is no load that you carry on your head. When one is full, one cannot understand that which is closer to that which is not full. The Supreme Being is called Purna. And the Upanishads describes it as that is complete. This is Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamaduchyate, Purnasya, Purnamataya, Purnameva Vashishyate. It is complete. And that completeness comes probably in a mind which doesn't carry too much of stuff. In fact, nowadays, you really don't need to carry so much stuff. Why? You have Google search engine, go there and figure out. Google is a new god, big G. Knowledge is not understanding. Understanding and intelligence is different from gathering information. This is only gathering information. What is a scholar? Gathering information. Now that's the end of this chapter. So, I skipped a few because there were repetitions. I'm going to tell you two stories which have relevance to what we discussed. One is the story of a great scholar. I don't know if you have heard. His name was Kavyakantha, Ganapati Shashtri. And there was nothing in this field that he had not studied. From Vedanta to Tantra to Shakta, through Sri Vidya, there's nothing that you can think of on the spiritual knowledge that he had. He had everything. And yet he found that there was a barrier between himself and the truth which he was seeking. And he searched far and wide. He went to many teachers. He found when he went to some teachers that he was better than them. So he came back. And then he went to, in his wanderings, he reached Tiruvannamalai in the south. Tiruvannamalai, he heard that there is a great, some yogi sitting in the cave. Nobody knew Ramana Maharshi before that as Ramana Maharshi. Somebody told him there is a yogi sitting up there and maybe he is going to help you, who knows. So he went up, climbed up, and there he saw Ramana sitting. I don't know if you have seen any pictures. There's not a single picture of Ramana Maharshi with the eyes closed. If you have to show me one. All his eyes are open. For him, there is no difference between the inside and the outside. Anyway, there he was sitting. His eyes were open, but they were not focused on anything in particular. Just there. As if he was looking far away. So he sat there for 1 hour. Normally, what would we have done normally? We would have said, fed up, let's go. This guy is not going. But Ganapati Shastri was one who, perhaps because of his knowledge, he knew that you can't predict what sages do. So he sat. After an hour, slowly the eyes focused on him. And then Maharshi smiled. He realized there's somebody sitting there. So he smiled. And he hardly talked. Rarely. So he put up his hand and did this. It means what? What do you want? So Shastrigal was waiting for this signal. So as soon as the signal came, he started off. It took him around 10 minutes to describe everything that he has done and all the sadhanas he has done and what happened to him and blah, 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 blah. Went on for 10 full minutes non-stop like a verbal diarrhea. So, then he stopped. And then he said, now what else should I do? Because there is a barrier. They say the Maharshi smiled and said in Tamil, "Konja neram summa irukka mudiyuma." Can you shut up for a second? You've done too much of what you've done, Shut up. Keep quiet. That's all you need. It's something to be noted because we're reading something along these lines out here. So it's not the information that is important, but the intuition that's important. Information is different from intuition. Not that you shouldn't have information, but don't give it too much importance. You need information. Like we are talking, you need to communicate. I understand. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is to read between the lines. That's one story. The other, before I wind up, is my favorite story because I think one of the biggest barriers to understanding is the ego, which keeps saying, I know, I've read this. This was told to me by a monk of the Lingayat order. In Karnataka we have many Lingayat mathas. So one of them, what's that? No, it doesn't matter. So we were on this Padayatra walk from Kanyakumari to Kashmir. So on the way in Karnataka, most places we stayed in these Lingayat monasteries because there are many. And the head of the monastery in one of these places, a nice, pleasant old man, Sannyasi. And all our people who were walking with me were complaining that for 3-4 months I haven't had a satsang. We didn't have a satsang. You're just walking. What is this we need to do? So I said, okay, let's have a satsang. Only for the people who are walking with us. So, where is satsang? Venki knows. He walked with me throughout. So, he resigned his job and worked with me for 1 year and 4 months. Luckily you got back your job. So, anyway, so when we reached this monastery, this Swamiji said, I also want to attend the satsang. I was a little worried because he's a very senior man. What if I say something wrong? So I said, okay, Swamiji, please. I said, it's for the people who walked with me. He said, I also walked with you for 2 kilometers. So I said, okay. So we made a chair for him, arranged a chair, and he also sat down and he listened to the satsang. At the end of the satsang, I told him, do you have anything to say to us, to the group? He said, yeah, if you permit me, I want to just tell you a story. He said, I'll tell you 2 stories. But one of them which I like, well, it's a story, okay? Apparently there was a great expert sculptor, a sculptor. So he was summoned by a priest of a temple to make an image of some deity. So the priest looked at him or did something and said, I can see your future and I think in 3 months you're going to die. This guy said, 3 months I'm going to die. What is this? You're saying I'm going to die, you're the priest. So you must be the agent with God. So find out how I can escape it. That will be better. What is the point of saying you're going to die? Anyway, I'll die. So, is there some way I can get out of it? He said, yeah, you can actually. It's very, for you it will be easy, not for everybody. He said, why? He said, because you're such a good sculptor. He said, what has that got to do with sculpture? He said, it's like this. You go back to your workshop. I'll tell you the exact day and time when the god of death is sending his messengers to take you. You know those dutas who come from Yama on buffaloes, right? So, I'll tell you the time. Please, nobody comes in buffaloes, it's a story, okay? So, you go there and you have 3 months, right? You make 2 or 3 duplicates of yourself. You're such a great sculptor that nobody can make out which is duplicate and which is real. Especially those fellows who come on buffaloes, they're a little weak in the head. They'll certainly not figure out. So, you go there and make 3 images or 2 images, and then when the time comes, when these guys come, you go and stand in the middle. That's all you need to do. So he said, okay, and it happened that actually they came at that time, and he had already got 2-3 duplicates, and he stood in the middle. These guys were puzzled, they couldn't make out which is duplicate and which is original. So real. Now, the time of death was past, the muhurta was over, so now you can't take the soul, so they went back. He escaped. They went back to the Lord Yama and said, sir, sorry, we couldn't get this guy. He was standing in the middle of 2-3 reps. We didn't know which was real, so we came back. So Yama said, look, I all along knew that you're idiots, but it doesn't matter. Another 6 months, his death is going to come. Again, go now. Before you go, come to me and I'm going to give you a mantra. I'll whisper it into your ears. Just do that and you can catch him. He said, okay. Now the priest told him that you have escaped now, but in 6 months you're going to die again. So he said, what to do? He said, do the same thing, not to worry. So at the time he also went and stood as before. Now the dutas, the messengers, were coming from the Lord of Death. So they went to him and said, you said you'll give us some mantra because this guy is going to adopt the same trick. And we are not going to find out which is real and which is unreal. So please, is there something we can do? So Yama whispered into their ears a mantra. Okay, they went. Same thing happened. He was standing in the middle, there were all these, and nobody knew. He was standing on one side, probably. So they adopted the mantra taught by Yama. What was the mantra? He said, you cannot find which is duplicate and which is original. All you have to do is praise the sculptor. That's all you need to do. So they went and they said, oh my God, it's so beautiful. See, so original, can't make out. See, the skin is like real skin. And the hair, it's so real, it's flowing in the wind. And you almost feel the breath coming from the nose. It's for about 2-3 minutes he controlled himself. Then when they said, even you can feel the breath, he said, I made it. So they said, come. Time to go. So this, I did it, I made it. The biggest problem, if you don't have that, you can even be saved from death. You don't have to be a sculptor. So this is important to note. Always understand that you don't know everything. There may be others who know more than you. So if you live this way, then you live in humility, because in fact the Upanishads say, he who knows, knows not, and he who knows not knows. Which doesn't mean you should say, I don't know anything and walk around. There are some people who say, I'm very careful of such people. We have no ego. Oh, I say, wonderful. You have to watch out there. Careful. So thank you very much for listening attentively on a Saturday morning. And a beautiful sunny morning, that too. today. It's 1 o'clock, so I think we should close this session now. In the evening, what time does the session start? 4 o'clock. So when you come back at 4 o'clock, those who come back, we will have a session on the practice. I'm not asking everybody to come. Only if you really feel like taking up the practice of Kriya, you can come with 10,000 pounds each to give me. I'm joking. I don't charge anything, but if you learn Kriya, please practice it regularly. That's all that matters to me. And then I'll explain what Kriya is, and then after listening to what Kriya is, you can decide whether you want it or you don't want it. You can walk away, and I'll hold no enmity against the people who walk away. For others, we can sit down and discuss how to do it in a practical way, so at least the beginnings of Kriya, which may be useful. It has been useful to me. And then at the end of it, if you have any questions relating to Kriya and also relating to the morning session, we can work on that. Beyond this, I don't think it would be of any good to discuss anything now, because the mind has a very limited attention span, especially in such matters. So, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you very much.